At 76, Richard Gere, once one of Hollywood's most celebrated leading men, lives a life far removed from the glamorous red carpets and multi-million-dollar deals that once defined his career. This is a man who charmed audiences in Pretty Woman, captivated with his raw presence, and became the embodiment of desire. Yet today, he lives in exile. By choice. Not out of disgrace or failure, but a deliberate decision to reject the very system that made him a global icon. He turned down blockbuster franchises and commercial success to pursue something far more meaningful, even if it meant erasing his name from the Hollywood scene entirely. Today, Richard Gere's story is one of choosing peace over fame, something most people in his position would never dare to do. But how did this man, born in a small town, go from Hollywood royalty to the streets of Madrid, raising toddlers in the face of public scrutiny? A restless beginnings. Richard Tiffany Gere was born on August 31, 1949, in Philadelphia, but grew up in Syracuse, New York, a town of just 5,000 people. It was a small, ordinary place for someone with an extraordinary restlessness. His father, Homer, was an insurance agent, but to the people of Syracuse, he was so much more. He had once dreamed of becoming a Methodist minister, and that calling translated into everything he did. When people had problems, they didn't call the authorities. They called Homer. Richard, the second of 5 children, inherited his father's deep compassion, but also shared his restlessness. As a child, he wasn't just a talented musician, playing piano, guitar, and trumpet, but a disciplined athlete as well, excelling in gymnastics. However, something was missing. Something beyond the boundaries of the small town. A mind hungry for answers. Gere's journey into philosophy began early. At North Syracuse Central High School, he displayed not only physical agility, but intellectual curiosity. He was a gymnast, a musician, and a thinker. After high school, he received a scholarship to the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where he chose to study philosophy. He wasn't interested in traditional career paths like business or medicine. He was determined to explore existential questions about reality and existence. What is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of being? Richard's search wasn't academic. It was personal. Raised in a Methodist household, he found that the faith didn't provide answers to the existential questions gnawing at him. This inner turmoil drove him to explore other belief systems and eventually led him to Buddhism, where he would find answers that resonated deeply with his soul. Finding peace in Buddhism. In his early 20s, Gere sought solace in Buddhism, specifically Zen, after feeling lost and unsettled in his college environment. He moved to New York City and studied under the guidance of Tibetan teachers, spending months meditating in cramped apartments and learning Tai Chi. His time in Tibet, walking across the Himalayas and practicing with monks in remote monasteries, was transformative. There, he met the Dalai Lama, and the encounter forever altered his perspective on life and acting. The Dalai Lama challenged everything Gere had learned about his craft, particularly the emotional methods of acting that seemed to encourage suffering and attachment. Gere soon became a practicing Tibetan Buddhist, not as a celebrity gimmick, but as a genuine commitment to finding inner peace and detachment. His spiritual journey had only just begun, yet his professional life was about to take a sharp turn toward stardom. Hollywood's golden era. Despite his spiritual quest, Hollywood came calling in the late 1970s. Gere's early roles were small but memorable. He caught the eye of directors and critics, eventually landing a breakthrough role in the original Grease stage production in 1978. That year marked the beginning of his transition from stage actor to film star, especially after his role in American Gigolo, 1980. This was the film that would catapult Gere into the public eye as a sex symbol. His portrayal of a high-end escort was both provocative and alluring, and the role was electrifying. The 1980s were a whirlwind for Gere as he starred in An Officer and a Gentleman, 1982, a film that cemented his status as a leading man in Hollywood. His career flourished as he became one of the most bankable stars, adored for both his looks and his intense screen presence. The irony of fame. Though Hollywood was a dream come true for many, for Gere, it became a paradox. The man who spent hours each day meditating in search of inner peace was now the face of desire and fame. Everything he had once tried to escape. His role in American Gigolo made him a sex symbol, but Gere was uncomfortable with the very thing that made him famous. The lifestyle that came with being a Hollywood star, filled with glamour and superficiality, felt at odds with his deeper search for truth and spiritual enlightenment. Gere's inner conflict only intensified as his career took off, and by the mid-1980s, he was already growing weary of the Hollywood machine. The industry demanded more, but Gere was seeking less ego, less attachment, and more peace. This internal struggle would ultimately shape the decisions he made in the years to come. A political awakening. As Gere's career soared, so did his activism. In 1987, he began speaking out about Tibet's political struggles under Chinese rule, a cause that became deeply personal to him. He wasn't simply another celebrity pushing a cause for publicity. This was an issue that connected to his own spiritual beliefs. The Dalai Lama had requested his help, and Gere took the challenge seriously, using his platform to denounce China's human rights abuses. His outspoken views, however, put him at odds with Hollywood's interests. China represented an enormous financial market for studios, and Gere's criticisms of the Chinese government made him a pariah in Hollywood. In 1993, at the Academy Awards, Gere used his moment in the spotlight to publicly criticize China, resulting in an immediate backlash. Major studios began to quietly distance themselves from him. Yet Gere stood firm in his beliefs, knowing that his commitment to justice mattered more than the cost to his career. A marriage of idealism. Gere's relationship with supermodel Cindy Crawford began in 1988, and it was clear from the start that they shared a connection beyond the superficial. Both were looking for something real in a world dominated by image and fame. They bonded over their shared interest in Buddhism and meditation, and their relationship seemed like the epitome of a power couple. However, despite their chemistry, cracks began to form in their relationship. Cindy, young and eager, often molded herself around Richard's interests, but Richard, older and more established, found himself struggling with compromise. In 1991, they eloped to Las Vegas in a spontaneous ceremony, which, instead of solidifying their bond, marked the beginning of the end. The media was quick to speculate about the marriage, and in 1994, after just 4 years, Richard and Cindy separated. The end of an era. Richard and Cindy's separation made headlines, but the real story was the unraveling of Gere's own relationship with Hollywood. As he faced the pressures of fame, the cost of speaking out on issues that mattered to him, and the toll of his spiritual journey, Gere found himself at a crossroads. His marriage to Cindy, once filled with promise, had faltered due to the pressures of their public lives. Gere's quest for peace and truth had led him to choose a different path than many in Hollywood, and by the mid-1990s, his career had slowed significantly. But even as his professional life declined, Richard Gere found solace in the simple things, raising his children, spending time in meditation, and living a life of purpose outside the confines of fame.